Good day and welcome to another episode of Drew's Book Reviews. Today's video is all about a really cool thing called the fabric of the cosmos. Just look around, look at this. This is just beautiful, it's magnificent. It's the depths of our universe and the fundamental particles that make it up. This fabric, which is moldable and shapeable, and you could change it in so many different ways, and it's in a constant state of this constant flux at the subatomic level, and everything is uncertain across the fabric of the cosmos on that subatomic level, and it's just really cool. You want to know more about Brian Greene's Fabric of the Cosmos? Stay tuned, that's coming right up. Alright, so The Fabric of the Cosmos by Brian Greene. Let's just say, as Brian Greene says, this, plainly speaking, is weird. We are unused to a reality that remains ambiguous until perceived. That is the essence of particle and quantum mechanics and particle physics. And Brian Greene certainly takes us on a wild ride through the history and development of string theory and quantum mechanics in his book, The Fabric of the Cosmos. And this really is just an amazingly awesome and fascinating read from start to finish. In this book, Brian Greene talks about a lot of different questions that come up when discussing things about space and time, the texture of reality, and there is so much to discuss with this and so much in the history and development of the quantum theory and particle theory and string theory from the beginnings of Albert Einstein all the way through the modern scientific era, where even Albert Einstein himself rejected some of the ideas and conclusions that his science seemed to bring about. And this leaves us with a fascinating scope of scientific research, as well as a fascinating look into the cosmos and the very texture of reality itself. And that also leads to a lot of questions that we have about space and time, this whole concept of space-time. Such questions as, is space-time a physical entity, or is it just this construct of the mind that we utilize in order to perceive and understand the reality around us? And what does it mean for space to be empty? Does time have a beginning? Does time only flow in one direction, or is that just our perception of time and how it flows? What is it about space-time that makes it what it is? Is it made up of is there such thing as these fundamental particles that make up the fabric of the cosmos, or space-time in and of itself? So these questions are explored in this book as it covers the 300-year history of the development of physics into the quantum theory, and it really is just an amazingly fascinating read from start to finish. One of the things I absolutely love about Brian Greene is his ability to communicate these complex ideas in a way that helps people understand what it is we're talking about, because with the quantum theory, we can't really know anything for sure. So, for example, with the quantum theory, there is this uncertainty principle, which says that we can't really know anything for certain in terms of both position and velocity of any given particle. Now, of course, on the macro scale, you could say for certainty I'm here, but really, like these waves on the ocean here, that's just a probability wave. If we imagine the vast cosmos as this ocean, and on the ocean there's these waves, and those waves represent the probability that something will be at a certain location, point in space-time at any given moment. It's not a confirmation that it exists. For all we know, yeah, the probability is pretty good that I'm here. But all we can really say for certain is that there is the highest probability that here is where I am instead of somewhere else. But we can't know with absolute certainty. And this is just a really fascinating idea. And I think one of the most fascinating ideas behind this whole fabric of the cosmos and space-time and the texture of reality and all this fun stuff is this idea that time flows in a singular direction, or so it's perceived. There actually is nothing in the quantum realm or the quantum mechanics or theory that suggests that time could only flow in a singular direction. it could flow backward. We just don't perceive it to flow backward. So to illustrate this fact, or illustrate this idea of what we mean by this and how it's only perceived to do so, let's jump into the kitchen for a moment, and we'll use an example that Brian Greene uses throughout the book, and that is the example of the egg. So let's go use that example for a moment. So one of the key things that Brian Greene used as a great example of talking about entropy and the flow of time and how we interpret all that is he used the egg. So we're going to use the egg as an example. So one of the things that he talks about is how the universe is moving from a state of highly ordered, such as this egg here. It's ordered, it's in its shell, it's got its own shape, consistency, of course, and it's all organized into this particular form. And as the universe ages and goes forward in time, and this is how entropy is connected with time, entropy is the movement from this highly ordered state, the progression of time, into a disordered state, such as when we crack the egg and put it on the pan. And by doing so, we create a state of more disorder or higher entropy. And it is this progression from disorder to, or rather order to disorder, is what we view as the progress of time throughout the cosmos. It's how we interpret our linear progression through time, which is an interesting way to look at it. Now, the interesting thing with that is we know that time only flows in one direction, or at least that is our perception of it. Or does it? Because as we know, we can, in theory at least, go backward through time into the past. But why don't we ever see that happen? Why doesn't time reverse? Why don't the eggs just come out of the pan back into the shell and reform back into a highly ordered state? We just never see this happen. It just doesn't seem possible. Or is it? So, of course, as we know, the egg isn't going to really go back into its shell and reform like we saw just a moment there ago. But at the end of the day, the possibility of time reversing itself is there in reality in the theory, but we just never see it happen. So it's this really interesting concept. And I loved how he tied that into this idea of entropy as our basis for the flow of time, that really our measurement of time is going from a state of a highly organized state to a highly disorganized state. And that our universe began in this state of extremely low entropy until something happened and boom, we've been progressively moving towards a less disordered state ever since. And that's just a fascinating idea. We measure the flow of time based on the progress towards a highly ordered to disordered state. The egg cracking and the egg splattering all over the pan. You know, there's a clear progression of events. If you just watch that go in reverse, you know that it's just a movie. It's not real and it never really happened that way. Because we have this fundamental understanding of the flow of time in a singular direction. I loved how he gets into that, and it's just so much fun to read about these concepts, these ideas that Brian Greene is presented within this book, and he explains it so well. which is why I'm absolutely loving Brian Greene. I'm loving the way he explains things. I'm loving the way that he gets into the nitty-gritty of the details of quantum mechanics, particle physics, their multi-dimensional universe, how these things work. And he's so good at communicating them in a way that helps me understand them better, because I'm by no means a physicist. I'm pretty sure I dropped high school physics because I hated the math involved, which is ironic because now I'm really into these things with respect to physics and quantum mechanics and space and time and the texture of reality and all this fun stuff. And it's just really fun, entertaining read, and I'm having a lot of fun enjoying reading Brian Greene's books. So definitely this is a worthwhile read if you are into these ideas and these concepts. Brian Greene is by far become my favorite nonfiction writer out there. Absolutely loving every book of his, for sure. One of the things I really like about how Brian Greene approaches the writing of this book is he uses these pop culture references to highlight and demonstrate, and he uses them to explain the different principles, whether that's time travel, quantum entanglement. For example, he used Fox and Mulder from the X-Files to explain quantum entanglement, where as Fox Mulder says, "Oh my gosh, look at this spooky action at a distance." Well, as Einstein called it, not how Brian Greene referred to it, but that's basically what Einstein called it. And then you've got the skeptical side of Scully trying to debunk, it's like, no, they're not entangled. The particles were always just that way. It's not that one particle determined what the other particle was. And Mulder arguing against that. So, and then of course we have the example of the wormhole through space and time with Bart and Lisa and the Quickie Mart, the nuclear power plant setting there. So he's using pop culture references to kind of illustrate a picture of the principles that he is explaining within this book. And that just makes it that much more fun and entertaining of a read. So you're kind of getting into this idea. It's like, oh yeah, Bart, Lisa, I know those people. Fox, Mulder, Scully, yeah, I know them. And it just kind of helps set the tone, kind of, that illustrate with popular references that people understand and know who they are, to kind of get that setting and, you know, how their characters would approach certain scenarios and situations. So it's kind of fun having the pop culture in there to help illustrate these different principles that we see discussed within this book. And overall, again, just a fun read from start to finish. I am absolutely loving Brian Greene's writing, and I really look forward to getting into more Brian Greene books, because at this point I think Brian Greene has got to be a must-buy for me. Absolutely a must-buy from the start. And these are just some things that I'm really enjoying about his writing. And so if you're into this particular type of book, if you're into science and stuff about space, the universe, and life, the universe, and everything, to throw in a Hitchhiker's reference, if you're into this kind of thing, definitely this is a book worth checking out, and I would recommend anything by Brian Greene. So those are my thoughts on The Fabric of the Cosmos by Brian Greene. Definitely worthwhile checking out if you're into the whole nonfiction thing. Hope you liked this video. If you did like it, like, comment, and subscribe to this video. And of course, you could always join me on the Discord, where we could have a talk about some nonfiction books if you'd like. I got a nonfiction channel there. Hit that link tree down below to follow me on my social platforms. I'm primarily active on Bookstagram. Every now and then I'll send out a tweet, and on rare occasion I might do a TikTok. But otherwise I'm primarily active on Bookstagram there on Instagram, so you could check that out through my link tree. And as always, you can support this channel on Patreon if you want to join us over there for early access and voting on next reads, things like that. But until next time, thank you so much for watching. Hope you're having a great day, and until next time, keep on reading. Bye.